Monday, September 23rd, 2019, 6 p.m., City Hall Council Chambers. 1.0 roll call.
Rod Smith,
Here.
Mockhart,
Here.
Kay Smith,
Here.
Crum,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Weimer.
Here.
2.0 Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the minutes from the following meeting, September 9th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
First by Cody, second by Betty. Any corrections or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4.0 Public Hearings. 4.1 Public Hearing on Proposed Development Agreements with Eagle View Land Development Incorporated. And I'll open the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
First by Rod, second by Cody to close. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 4.2, public hearing on proposal to enter into general obligation corporate purpose loan agreement. And I'll open the public hearing.
Tammy Seeley, 202 Park Avenue. A petition was filed on behalf of the citizens to open up the question of the entering into the loan agreement for $700,000 at 7% interest, with 3 items listed on that petition. The first one being question of the purchase price of the property of 108 North Ford Street. Just looking back on Beacon, I was just questioning if you guys have knowledge of the value of the property prior to you guys entering into this purchase agreement. Do you have history of what it was valued at prior to this purchase?
Like an appraisal or an assessment?
Assessment.
Because they're two different,
Right, an assessment. Yep.
well, and to me, an assessment's irrelevant because it's tax-based only. An appraisal's what you would, for property value, need to
Right.
go off of.
Well, I'd just like to mention that in 2002, it was purchased for $12,305. In 2003, it was purchased for $32,000. In 2015, it was purchased for $125,000. And in 2019, it was purchased for $70,000. So the question that I'd like to ask is, when we come to a buying price of $246,500, where we generated that number from, was there a formal assessment done?
If I'm not mistaken, the assessed value is posted through the county records.
Correct, but was there an appraisal done from a neutral party? When you go to purchase a property, a lot of times you'll have a neutral party that comes in and gives the buyer a appraisal saying, yes, we think that that it's valued at this, then you can go to the bank and borrow the money.
It hasn't gotten that far yet.
Okay. But you've agreed and have a purchase agreement in place for $246,500.
And there has been conversation about appraisals.
Okay.
The assessed value of the,
I'm sorry, I was talking about on Beacon of the purchase price.
That's
Sorry,
assessed.
excuse me. You're right. You can speak to the assessed value then. Go ahead, please do.
the assessed value is for just the lot alone, just the just shy of a half an acre, the assessed value is $38,520. The building assessed value is $145,280. So that gives you a total of $183,800 for total assessed value. With that, assessed value is only 80% of the actual value of a property.
Right.
So if I take the assessed value times 1.2, which is equivalent to 80%, gives me an actual value of $220,560. This building also contains a new roof.
Correct. But it has never been purchased prior to what you're proposing to be purchased for. What, if we're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna give you this, we'll say we're gonna put a new roof on it and the roof was $100,000. And the highest that it's ever been purchased for was in 2015 for 125,000. So we're still around that 225 mark. I'm just telling you, the citizens of Anamosa feel like that there's a gap in the purchase price here, and that's why we brought a petition for that reason.
Understand, I'm just trying to assist in maybe
Right.
closing this gap.
Right.
My question to you, Tammy, is if there's an appraisal on the table and the appraised value of the building is for purchase price or greater, are you telling me then the petition would be that's what the public wants? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that the public's concerned about the
Right.
700,000 at 7% interest.
Correct. But my question to you, because you said that the public was concerned about that this property's never been purchased for this price
Right.
before, that if that's the concern and that's the reason for the petition, if there is an appraisal and the appraisal comes in at purchase price or greater,
There's 3 items listed on the petition, not just one.
Right, I'm
So
just
that's
saying
one
that
of the
that
items
would be one.
that's one of the items that's there.
Mhm.
The second item then would be the $700,000 and where that number was generated from.
I
So,
bel-
so both the 700,000 and the 7% interest are essentially maximums. We're not requiring that we spend that much money, but it allows us to borrow up to that amount based on the specifics of the project as we get further along. So we're
Right.
not saying we're going to spend 700,000 necessarily, but that would give us the capacity to borrow that much if we needed to for that project. And I guess just while I'm speaking on that point, just looking at the cost between a new build and a rehab, we're saving a lot of money going that route. You couldn't get anywhere close to a new facility for 700,000. Looking at comparisons of other communities who have built new facilities, they're all past the $2 million mark, even for comparable sized communities, and obviously larger communities are well past that mark. I think I looked at Mount Pleasant was looking at a new facility for around $10 million.
I don't, population-wise, how do we compare to Mount Pleasant?
We're not equivalent, but
Okay.
again, to give a more comparable, I believe DeWitt is very close in population, and their new facility was $2.8 million.
Where is the 7% interest generated from?
Again, that's just to give us a maximum, so we don't know where the market's going to be the day we end up closing on that loan. We want to make sure we have the authority. Obviously, we don't anticipate it being at 7%, and we certainly hope that it's nowhere close, but to make sure that we don't end up to a point where the market's changed and it's higher than what was approved, they put it at that high mark to make sure that we're able to follow through with the loan.
which is standard in real estate purchases. to
So
have a
through the
maximum
city
interest.
finance codes, I understand where it says here that $700,000 in a city having a population of more than 5,000 but not more than 75,000. So basically what you're asking the voters to do is approve you to borrow the maximum amount of money that you can at 700,000 at the maximum amount of interest at 7%, just to give yourself some room. And you don't have any figures yet on what you're gonna, how much you're gonna put into this building. So we're just supposed to allow you to borrow money and not know where it's going. I mean, I just feel like there should have been more of a plan in place here to present to the voters. That's why we'd like to see it go to a vote to the public, so that you could be a little bit more specific in telling us what you're gonna do. Because you also tied this to saying that this was gonna be part of the fire department expansion, and I'm not hearing you say anything about the fire department. The only thing I'm hearing you say is that it won't cost us more than $700,000 to build a police department.
So the loan is combined, but there's two separate projects, the fire and the police station, and they would each have their own limit of 700,000.
So you're talking about two pots of money then?
They would be two separate projects.
So you want two loans for 700,000 apiece? I
Again,
don't think the public understood that to be that.
And we're here at the public hearing to try to correct any of those questions or points of confusion. Again, with the fire station, we don't anticipate using the full 700,000. We hope we're nowhere near that. But at the same time, there's a lot of things in a project you can run into. We felt it was the best to make sure that we had that cushion, and we were asking for the authority, if needed, to go to that $700,000 limit.
Okay.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
For clarification, Jacob, isn't it, it's my understanding that the codes, the Iowa codes spell out that a community of greater than 5,000, less than 75,000, can enter into a loan agreement not to exceed $700,000 at a maximum of 7%, up to 7%. Is that what the code states?
That's my understanding.
So what, through the early planning stages, we were using that as the benchmarks, being it was a code. If we thought this would exceed the $700,000, we would have voided and ceased at that point. And we, at this time, we still do not feel it will get to that, but the code says you can enter into the loan agreement up to $700,000. I just, if there is some confusion there, I'm trying to get that clarified or cleared up.
Mike Dearborn, 405 North Division. So since you're up on this code, can you tell me how many times can you, in one period of time, say a year, that you can put in for this 700,000?
It's my
Is it
understanding,
multiple?
Mike, per project.
Okay, so you can do this unlimited number of times, like say right here and now?
Again, it's my understanding it's per project. That, you
I'm not
asked, that's the
understanding what
end.
you're saying by that. Are
So
you,
the police station project, $700,000.
no matter what the time frame is, you can do that per project in any time frame specified? whether
That's
it's-
my understanding.
How about you? Is that
I
your
mean,
understanding?
It is. I mean, there are more details to it than that. Obviously, there's a provision that allows for a petition to be filed, which in this case has happened. So it's not.
Okay. So you're using this, and you're hoping to back pay this through a bond issue, correct?
We're
I mean,
hoping to
that's
finance.
what the
We're hoping
public
to finance
thinks.
these projects through a bond. Yes.
Okay. So if the bond doesn't fly, can you afford the payments that we're looking at now? with the loan that you're putting in for?
I mean, there's no, we're not committed to any payments unless it's approved. So
You say that again?
we're not committed to any payments unless the referendum is approved and we can proceed with the bond.
Okay. Let me ask you this, since we're on the topic of this structure, actually, it doesn't necessarily, do it stay on the topic of this particular building or the whole process that you all took to get to this building? I will stick with this one for now. I wanna ask you, why didn't the city purchase this themselves at 70,000? And for another 174,000, you'd had a pretty good head start on a revitalization of that building. Ever give any thought to that? Was that ever discussed? Because this building has been on the market for a long time. And it's pretty common knowledge. So I would hope that all of you knew it was on the market for $70,000. So 174 additional $1,000 would have gone a long ways towards starting this project. Now you're into it, will be into it for 244, and basically got a shell.
To answer your question, I'm not aware of any conversations about purchasing this building until after it was owned by the current owner.
Do you think that would have been a possibility to buy something like that and then bid it out, just like any other city project, whether it be water, sewer, or a building structure? That, I mean, what'd you get for the extra 170? I'm asking you guys, what do you feel you got for the $174,000? What do you feel you got?
I mean, we got a new roof.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's 4 or 5 roofs. But-
Basically, a new roof, go ahead.
But as well as the building being completely cleaned out and ready for our additional work. And I mean, to your other question, it's possible we could have bought it before. I think we would have all liked, that would have been the better route in hindsight. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way.
I mean, there's nobody in this room that wouldn't like to have bought their house sooner and cheaper than what they did.
What's that mean?
I'm just, everybody here would like to have gotten a better deal on everything, even when they got a
Right,
good deal on
but if it
something.
was available to me, I would have done my best to get it at that better deal.
As Cody stated at the last council meeting, when the same question was proposed to us, through our planning stages, our planning meetings, we had identified, I don't know, half a dozen properties in town. Whether the current owners did not wanna sell or just, for whatever reasons, it never came to any type of fruition. I will admit, in air, that none of us considered this building at that time. It never popped on our radars. Would we have, if it had, would we have been well ahead of the game to purchase it at the $70,000 mark? Most certainly, and I think everyone in here would agree to it. We overlooked the structure and never gave it consideration. So, as a council person, I'll own it. I erred.
I'll bring the same thing up I did 2 weeks ago. That's a good example of why you probably should utilize the Citizen Advisory Board. The more minds into this thing, the better. And you could have got somebody that was up on the downtown district and understood what's going on down there. It might have led you in a different direction, or at least given you more options. Because that's what we did originally for the fire station addition. I think there's still some people, Cody was on council, you were the mayor, I was on council. We got a group of citizens in addition to council members to discuss that possibility of adding on the fire station. It got well into it. I can tell you that from being involved. I left office, it got disbanded only because that city administrator at the time was offended that we wouldn't include it at City Hall in the project. So it just plain got dropped. That's why we're at where we are now. I mean, think of the cost of building, you know, between then and now, what we've lost.
Thank you, Mike.
Does that mean my time's up?
Yeah,
So
Okay,
we're off topic.
thank you.
yeah.
We got off topic.
I am Macy Sapine at 106 Teresa Avenue. I do have a question. How did this just all of a sudden pop up? You hadn't made any decisions about any building, but all of a sudden, this building comes under the radar. So you're ready to purchase this building for a lot more than it's probably worth. And then I have another question. After you purchase this building at a lot more than it's worth, who's going to be the construction? Who's gonna be doing the construction work on it, and who's gonna get the lowest bid? Because, and it should also be a bond issue. This should be put before the city, and we should all be allowed to vote for it. And the REC bill, that whole structure back there was kind of just slammed into it. And nobody to listen to any of the citizens of Anamosa, because nobody really wanted that there except for the REC. And now you're going to try to put the police station up on North Ford, where it's already a parking problem up there now, and there's people that utilize the bowling alley all the time. There's no parking for them. There won't be, unless they go over to city parking. And I just think that it's just another example of our city council shoving something at us without our approval, and I think that we should have a vote for this. Thank you.
Well, there's a couple questions, I guess, Macy, and I'm not looking to lead the council team by any means, but we had multiple, meetings, special meetings, where we reviewed parcels, buildings, areas in town
Which
for
one,
this.
or what buildings did you consider?
Can we say?
Did you consider the old hospital, that area? Did you consider
That's
the
no
old clinic
longer-
up there?
That's no longer the city's, the old hospital.
I mean,
Who
we
does it belong
considered
to?
it when we possessed it.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
there was conversation about that.
Absolutely, I was here when that was discussed.
Yeah,
So
we've
so
talked
there's your
about
answer,
that.
yes, we did discuss that a little.
And
Yeah, a
what
long
the
time
pro-
ago.
Yeah, and
But-
we reached out to people, we sat here in a closed session,
Uh-huh.
and we
Oh,
made a
close.
list of all the places inside city limits of Anamosa that perhaps would be a good
Well,
place for
where
a
else
police
did you
station.
just say, did you think of?
Well,
Well, I don't know.
I don't
You
know
had
that we
6 or
can
7.
say, I don't know that we
You
can
can't say?
I don't think so.
No, let's talk
Can
about
we,
closed
if-
session.
yeah. But we did, and we even
That's
reached out
that's
to
exactly
people.
what I mean. It's a
It's
closed
not-
session, always a
we're
closed
not-
session,
If
so
you
we
guys
never
over
know
here are
what's going
gonna
on.
keep up the noise, I'll ask you to leave.
What?
Macy, we did not have the discussion in closed session to attempt to hide anything from the
Then
city.
why did you have a closed session?
Because
Because it's
it
a
was in
real
the best
estate deal.
interest of the city, so that we, if we so decided to pursue property, we, in a sense, we didn't have to compete with the entire public for the
Uh-huh.
same building. I
But-
think you can understand that
I
that's good
understand
business
that,
sense.
well, I do understand that, I guess, but my point is that when it comes right down to it, the taxpayers are gonna pay for this. And we wanna know what, and this is another personal thing with me. We have a library that needs assistance. We have, our community center needs work, but now we're trying to get a new police department. And that building up there, I know you thought that it was not taking care of it, and it wasn't maintained, but it would have easily been maintained. And nobody did it, the city didn't do it, and so now it's in a bad state and it's gonna have to be renovated. And it is a historical marker, I think, so you have to take care of it. So I think, from my own feelings, that the middle of Anamosa is not the place for our police department. I mean, not in that location. There's gotta be someplace else. Simply because the downtown area looks bad enough with REC back there. And now we're gonna have another big parking lot up here with the police department and all the police cars and I wanna know what was wrong with the police department anyway, because I'd go to the police station and there was never anybody there. The doors were locked. So, why do we need another one? I'm just saying. Okay, time's up.
Katie Gombert, 607 South Garnavilla Street. Just a couple questions to some of the comments that were just made. You said you went into closed meetings and you made a list of all the available properties, but previously you just said that one flew under your radar when it was for sale.
Yes, it was the ones
How-
that we could think of, Katie.
Yeah, and
But you
Katie,
said
there
of
were.
all the available properties, is what you
Okay,
just said.
I'm the one that said it, so let me
Mhm.
answer that. We made a list of all the available properties. At the time, we're like winery, restaurant. I didn't realize it had parking inside that building. I didn't realize you can drive vehicles into that building. I didn't think about it as a police station, nor did anyone here. It did go under our radar for the simple fact that we eliminated it through the process of elimination for several reasons. One is it's a food service business, it's a restaurant, it's a winery, and it would have been great to have somebody buy it and open it back up. We went through properties that are not for sale, and we contacted people privately, are you interested in selling? We did all kinds of things. This has been a work in progress for a long time. So, it's not that every single thing that is on the market commercially, did we reach out and contact them? But I do believe pretty much all of them were a topic of conversation at this table at some point.
Okay. So that was a winery, but I'm pretty sure all the other buildings weren't probably police departments. So what you're saying is you
We
wanted to
didn't
keep that
reach
as
out
a
to-
winery. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel
Right.
like that's what you're,
And
that's the reason
we
you didn't look into
reach
that
out
one.
to every single one on the market, is what I
don't ever
said.
recall discussion about this parcel until it was made aware to us
Mhm.
that the owner would be interested in selling.
Okay. With the 700,000, usually when you have a project, you have bids, so you know that you're gonna stay within that 700,000. How do you know you're going to stay within that 700,000? I mean, you keep saying we should, we hope to. How do you know without having, this is a big project. This is not, redoing a bathroom or whatever. This is a big deal. How do we have bids? How do we know it's gonna stay within that? For just the police department?
We don't currently have bids, we would get bids. We can control the scope of the project so that,
It could be done in phases.
Mm-hmm.
if we get a bid,
What is
to
bids
keep
that
it
come back,
under control.
if we get bids that come back over the $700,000 mark, we can cut that back and rework the scope to ensure that we stay under that amount.
But that's not a guarantee.
I
You
think
can't
it
guarantee either way. You can't guarantee that it's gonna stay within, you can't guarantee that you're gonna go over, not go over. Go over or stay under. You can't guarantee either one.
We would be able to stay under the 700 by elimination of things, doing what is needed, not what is wanted. It's like any other budget. Here's the
Okay.
in a perfect world,
And
what all
that's
do
fine,
we
and that's
want?
great, but do
But
we have the
now
big chunk
with
of the things
money-
that have to happen in
Yes.
this police department to make it a functional police department? Do we have those bids, so we know it's gonna stay within that 700?
No, we don't have those bids.
We don't even,
I mean,
we're not there yet.
that would put the cart before the horse in that we don't own the property yet.
Okay.
We don't have access to a property to start the bid process with.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Nancy Schaefer, 803 North Division Court. We purchased some property on Shaw Road, and I think when we did purchase it, some people looked at us like, I don't think it was worth that much. But to us, it was worth that much for what we wanted to do with it. So I think you can look at property that way. It never was sold for as much as what we paid for it. There was modular home on it. that was assessed at a pretty good chunk of change, we got $7,500 out of it. So we were purchasing because of the location and how it would suit our needs. And I think that is kind of how maybe you guys were looking at this property too. As far as location, I think having a centrally located police station is a good idea. For years, it was right here. So all we did was just move across Main Street. I don't see how that's a big deal. Parking, I don't know that there's any public parking in the area of the winery other than street parking and the city parking lot. So I don't think anything is being lost there. The fire station, I can understand why they need to be on the edge of town, and on a 4-lane. That makes sense to me. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Nancy.
There's a few other things I'd like to point out that makes this piece, this property or this building attractive. It's 8,000 square feet of building in total. Contractors that I have spoke with, if they were to put up just a basic steel structure, steel girders, steel walls, steel interior, steel exterior, and this is no internal utilities, no wiring, no plumbing, no HVAC, $60 a square foot. So with this 8,000 square foot building, that puts us, if we went new, $480,000 into it. Also from what I'm told, this building is structurally sound. So it's not like we believe that we would need to shore it up. The rest of the money could be focused on, in a sense, interior remodeling. It also comes with 7,500 square feet of hard surface parking area. That's 4,000 square feet of concrete and 3,500 square feet of asphalt. The new roof, again, not talking to the contractor that put the roof on, because I wanted to go outside of that box. They said that you could probably figure a new roof on that bill, on 8,000 square foot building of that year at about $100,000 to put that on. So, you know, when you begin to add this up, the actual value of the property, we're buying it by far less.
To add emphasis to what you're
Again,
saying,
in
Ron.
a half acre of commercial property with no utilities on it. So, no water, no sewer. Anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000 just on the half acre lot. Again, going back to the assessed value, it was only $38,500. Again, I'm just trying to have the public to see it the way we were looking at it at the time.
Mike Neville, 118 South Sales. I have not been either way on this deal other than what I've listened to, but Rod, you make this sound like it's a great deal. And it's hard to figure because you said it wasn't even on your radar.
It was not, no.
No. Cody said, and I think you agreed, that it would have been, looking at it now, hindsight, it would have been the way to go here to buy it, purchase it. Is that correct? You know, without,
I think anybody in this room would
Yeah.
I'd like to have bought it at 70,000 including.
Well, that
yourself.
hindsight, you certainly got the foresight awfully quick. Because it was sold, I was told, July 2nd. And then it was brought up to purchase it. I don't know, Tammy, do you know the date? Or, I mean, it was a month ago.
8 weeks.
8 weeks later. Now, I think people feel like, what the hell is going on? You buy it for 70 and, or purchase it for 243, he puts a roof on it and tears the building down and cleans out the inside. You're gonna, there are too many people that wouldn't say somebody came out way ahead on this deal and somebody paid too much. And that 700,000, you keep talking about that, but you've already, you can't spend the 700 until you get the 243 bought. So now you're at 943, I believe. And the 700, you are very vague as to what it will cost, but we can go up to 700. And then I don't know what happens. If we don't go past 700, if we don't want to do that, we'll just cut some things. Maybe you don't need half of it to begin with. I think it's all up in the air as far as, and loose figures flying all over. You saying $100,000 for an 8,000 square foot roof. I would much rather hear that coming out of the mouth of a roofer than you. You know what I mean? It's all, there's a lot of people in town, you know, you represent everybody. And I would think you'd have the consideration to listen to people and see what they think. Sometimes you're gonna not get total agreement, I understand that. But to just ramrod things through without, like, you know, it's a big deal to get this done. We've had, you know, you can wait another 6 months. You can do it the proper way on various issues like that come across the city council. And I don't want to sit a table either. I don't, because you have decisions to make, but there's proper course to go through and follow. And it just doesn't appear to me like that is taking place. That's all I have to say about it.
Thank you.
I don't believe there was any one of the 6 council members, including the city administrator and the city mayor that were looking to ramrod this through.
Well, ask the people of Anamosa.
Okay, it
Well-
may appear as that way, but
And there are several people who are in support of this.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just gonna, I've
If-
got, you're just a second, I'm gonna finish. There
Yeah,
are
go
several
ahead.
people in support of this who have said, what a great novel idea. A, you're gonna save $1.5 million off the top of this from building brand new. B, where inside city limits are you gonna build new? Also, you have your police station should be in your downtown. This is the hub of our community. They should be able to walk out their front door and go to the bowling alley and get a cheeseburger and take it back and eat at their desk. They should be able
That'd
to
be
walk
great.
up and down Main Street. They should be a presence in our community, not just in patrol cars sitting out on 151 or sitting at the end of Wapsie, but they should be walking around our community. This is a great thing. Other communities, Lisbon built the brand new police station right there downtown, right on the corner there with City Hall. And I mean, other communities, there are people who are in support of this. I get there
Oh,
are
yeah.
people who don't like it, but there are people who do like it.
You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
But there are people that I tend to agree with Macy, who I've gone up to the police station and the door is locked. I mean, maybe they're out having a cheeseburger.
One would hope.
Well, you wonder the necessity of it, you know? If you walk up there and there's nobody around,
so you're saying disband the entire police department and have nothing?
what?
Are you saying to disband the police department, Anamosa's police department, and not have any? If you're
Where do you
questioning
get
the
that
need,
from?
you said the need for it.
No, I meant the need for a larger facility, all right? Sorry if you misunderstood.
See how easy things can be misunderstood?
I think, yeah, sure. Okay, folks.
Mike Richards, 114 South Booth Street. So the current projects that you want to do is borrow 700,000 for the police department and 700,000 for the fire station.
Up to.
Up to. So there's technically two projects that
Yes.
could both top out at 700.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm Bud Maynard. I'm actually from the city of Vinton. For all the naysayers here, shame on you. Somebody who wants to come invest in their community, you should let them do it. Somebody asked about the quote for the roof over there. I actually am the one that went out and got quotes. Have it on my phone, $110,000 to put a roof on the North Ford building. Has anybody got any questions on how much it costs to roof a building? And Roger, right. Take $110,000 off the 240, you're down to $130,000. You got a parking lot, an 8,000 square foot building with a brand new roof, structurally sound and ready to start going. You got a young man here that has invested tens of thousands of dollars into your community for a building that was gonna rot away. I went and toured it with him the day we went and looked at it. And that thing was dilapidated, going down, and I'm sorry that nobody else had the forethought to go out and buy it and then bring it to the council. It's not his fault. There is no guilt in anybody in this room making money. Zero. And if you think that is a problem, then you need to look deep inside yourselves, because there's not one person here who'd love to make money. Yes, he's entitled to make money. The city needs a new police station. They found a great place for it. So, just thought I'd throw that in there since I heard about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that kind of raises a point that we haven't really addressed, is the fact that the what if we had went a different direction, what would happen to this building? We'd all like to see something happen to it. I think there were probably a lot of the community that would like, just thought somebody would buy it and reopen a winery. Just thought it would happen, but that could easily sit there and become, a nuisance property that we are spending money to clean up. This to me is an absolute win all around. We're cleaning something up, rehabbing it, and getting a solid concrete building that is a great fit for our police department.
Bryce Rickless, Evil Developer. Basically, I just wanted to clarify some stuff on the building. We invested in a few buildings. This one and another one were owned by the bank. Been on the market for quite a while. This building, I believe, was listed for $159. So 70,000 never hit the market, never hit the street. It was listed for $159 for 2 years. The inside was molding around the roof drains. There was full of the basement was full of old records, full of old house remodeling stuff. Actually hauled out 5 55-gallon barrels of hazardous waste that we had to pay Lynn County landfill to get rid of. But when we ended up buying it, we went to the bank and said, you got a building, the roof, the roof is leaking, parts of it look really bad. And we said, you got mold growing in the carpet, it's been on the market for 2 years, it's not worth $159,000. It needs work. And like Bud said, Bud works with me, we know the roofers, we build treatment plants all over the east half of the state, we build buildings. So we contacted different roofers, got the roof prices, got it fixed, actually put tapered insulation on the roof to make it a better roof. Had to rebuild the roof drain that was leaking internally in the building. We got that fixed. We took out the old, the vents for the kitchen, stuff like that that was going on in there, patched them holes in, re-roofed the gable part of it. And in the process of it, looking through the building there, the structure of the old building, as someone wonders about value of what's there, and this is a lot of the reason, when we actually bought it, we went to the bank and said, hey, we started at 50,000 saying, you know, this thing might need to come down. We didn't look into it that deep at first. We just started, you know, something's gotta happen, something's gotta give, and as a developer, you know, once a bank sits on a property for 2 years and there's water coming through the roof, there's a point they're gonna look to get rid of it because it is just a liability. I mean, we got other contractors in the room, they know how this stuff goes with banks, liabilities, different things there. So we went, we talked to them, we said, okay. So after a few weeks of negotiation, we ended up at the $70,000 mark. It was never publicly listed for anything less than 159. So we ended up at 70,000, knowing there's a roof problem, knowing there's mold. So as we're coming nearer to the deal, we go down in there and we look at it. And Jacob looked at it with us right there at the last moment, because we were looking to say, what can the city do to help redevelop this building? That was honest, because we got programs through the state, we got programs city-wise. What can be done to try to make this building part of downtown, clean it up, make it functional? Well, going through it, that's when they realized the one bay off to the side with the gable roof is a garage bay with floor drains in it. Perfect building. You could wash cars in there. You can park 6 cars in there. It's already got floor drains in it. It used to be when it was the creamery, they backed the trucks in there and washed them out. The building has a poured concrete foundation. 9-foot walls, poured concrete floor, very good condition. Nothing that you would expect in a downtown building, because this is newer than the typical downtown building. It is a poured foundation, floor drains, everything inside there. It's the floor is a pre-stressed concrete floor. It's very good shape, poured, all pre-stressed concrete. Block walls. It's cement block walls, clay walls, and then it has a pre-stressed concrete roof. So the big concern with that building, and I talked to other people that had looked at that building before we made an offer on it, and everyone was under the same opinion, that roof's gotta be rotting away in that building. Sometimes you get lucky. We go in there, we start scratching around the roof, it's a concrete roof. Went up on top, cut the roof in 3 places. Concrete roof. Bank didn't know it was a concrete roof either. So yeah, we found out it's a better building. I mean, structurally, it is a very sound building. And that's what they're looking at, you know, this has the room. So when you look at the numbers and different things about it, we figure we got a little over $200,000 in the building with the roof, cleaning it out, disposing the hazardous waste. You know, I mean, it's there. Jacob's got a spreadsheet with the numbers on it. I mean, this is about trying to better the community. We do have another police station up the hill in the old library with mold growing down the walls. And if anybody hasn't noticed, we can't retain police officers in Anamosa. Everybody here has a job. You go to work in a place where you gotta have mold crawling down the walls and it's an unsanitary place. You stay working there in a market where there's not enough employees to go around? No, you don't. It's nothing different than you go out to the fire station. There hasn't been money put in the fire station for 20 years. We need more fire station room out there. Anamosa is a growing community. As much as we want to be negative and say, it's Anamosa, we can't spend a dime. We haven't spent a dime on a police station in how many decades? We haven't spent money on the fire station in how many decades? Then you turn around and you want to look at community betterment. How many contractors in the room? I know of 4, for sure. You got 2 projects that are gonna come out for bid, $500,000 projects, public bid. Gonna employ people in the town to better the town? Contractor's gonna bid on them. I'm not gonna be one bids on it. I do underground sewer work from here to Des Moines to Minnesota. That's what we do. You got people in here that are good at rebuilding buildings. We got a community that's trying to get better, and all we wanna do is bitch about it. I mean, take a look down Main Street. Look how blighted it is. You got 2 or 3 people that are willing to put effort into their buildings downtown and try to bring the damn thing around. Look how much work Tom puts into that theater building. So that's the numbers. It's black and white, it's out there. And yeah, it is a good spot downtown. Stuff needs cleaned up.
Thanks, Bryce.
Sounds to me, by the description of this building, it would be an ideal downtown storm shelter for the public. Tornado comes through during Pumpkin Fest, we got plenty of room. Plenty of room, storm shelter.
Move to close.
Second.
First by Cody, second by Betty to close. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 5.0 proclamations none. 6.0 old business. 6.1 review and approval of bill from HR Green for engineering services related to water treatment plant expansion project. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Marsh. I'm with HR Green. A few years ago, we were hired by the city to design, permit, bid, and construct an expansion to the city's water treatment plant. I thought I'd give kind of a general background of the work to date, and then get into the details of the most recent invoice that was discussed at the last council meeting, if you don't mind. So the status of the construction project at the water treatment plant is the work is complete. The contractor's punch list work is done, and they have achieved both substantial and final completion of the water treatment plant expansion. I have some statistics that I wanted to share with you all. The original engineer's opinion of construction cost was $1.8 million and some change. The original bid of Kalachi Construction was $1.8 million and some change, very close to our engineer's estimate. And the total of the change orders so far in the contract is actually a net credit to the city. So financially, the project is in very good shape. And the contractor's original substantial completion date was September 1st of 2018. Final completion date was November 1st, 2018. The contractor was very delayed in completing the work. Substantial completion wasn't achieved until January 29th. They had a $1,000 a day liquidated damages penalty, which accrued $138,000 by the time they achieved substantial completion. And final completion was achieved on June 12th of this year, or 134 days after substantial completion, at $500 a day liquidated damages. This was an additional $67,000. And doing the math quick, that's $205,000 total liquidated damages accrued. So the city has been working with an attorney. That attorney has been in contact with Kalachi's attorney, and they're trying to work out the final payment details right now. But again, the financial status of the project overall is that it's complete. The work is complete. They've achieved final completion, and the city is actively working to settle the final payment with the contractor. Any questions so far? Okay. So then the question came up, last time is, these are my words, but, so why are we still getting a bill from HR Green? So if the work is complete, so the bill that was, submitted that's, in front of you this evening, I think is for in the neighborhood of $1,500. The work that's within that most recent invoice is twofold. One, it includes time going back and forth with the city's attorney, providing documentation on some of the unpaid subcontractors that we're working diligently to try to get hired, and tracking each one of those, and conference calls with the city's attorney. And two, we have been asked by the state, the DNR is the one that has the state revolving fund loan through for this that we're using to fund the project with, and they have some American Iron and Steel requirements that we have provided some additional documentation for at their request. So those are the two components of the most recent invoice. That's why we're still working on it. And as soon as the final payment with the contractor is resolved, you won't see another invoice from us because the work is complete. So I hope that helps to explain where we're at with the water treatment plant project, with the water treatment plant expansion. Jim is here this evening if there's questions. I understand the water plant's working very well at the moment, and here to answer any other questions that anybody might have.
Your 6 hours of professional category, is that for your team for the legal side?
It's it falls under both of those two categories of the work that we did for that time period that I just mentioned.
You have 6 hours professional and 3.25 hours administrative coordinator. Administrative coordinator, is that just project management side?
So the three people that have worked on it are myself as a principal in HR Green. The professional is Jerry Phipps. He's the project manager, licensed professional engineer in the state, and the admin coordinator is fancy name for a secretary, basically.
Thanks.
Move to approve.
Second. First by Cody, second by John, was it?
Sure.
All those. Any further discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks,
Carried.
Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. 7.0 new business, 7.1 resolution approving the hiring and setting salary of Parks and Recreation Director.
Move to approve.
First by Benny,
Second.
second by Kay. Any council discussion?
Jacob, were you part of the review for this
Yes.
individual?
Yes.
Who was all involved in the review or proposed hiring process?
All applications were reviewed by the entire park board. We selected the initial candidates. They were involved in the first round of interviews. We agreed. I conducted a second round of interviews, one-on-one, and then we've met back together again to review those candidates and make our for them to make their final recommendation to the council.
Do you know how many applicants they had?
I believe we had 10 applicants.
And they narrowed it down to how many did you say?
We originally narrowed it down to 4. Four were interviewed.
Any public comment? If not, it's a roll vote.
K. Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump.
Yes.
7.2, resolution appointing Lori Hunt to the Anamosa Library and Learning Center Board of Trustees.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Rich, second by Kay. Any council discussion?
Did I see that this was a recommendation by the library board? From the
Yes, it
library
was.
board, is that correct?
Yes.
Any public comment? If not, it's a roll vote.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
K. Smith.
Yes.
So, we don't do this one.
No, we do. We do.
Oh,
We do
seven,
3.
three.
We do 3, 4, and 5.
Alright. 7.3, resolution approving development agreement with Eagle View Land Development Incorporated, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payment and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of agreement lot number 1.
So moved.
Second.
First by Betty, second by Cody. Any council discussion? Jacob, can you provide the details of this, tax increment revenue?
This is the current property on Chamber Drive, north of Red's Towing. This would be lot 1 of 3 that are proposed to be subdivided for 3 separate commercial developments. Let's see. Trying to remember which one this is. So this would be a, well, it's
The one
kind of a
behind-
2-unit or variable use. I don't want to commercial space. I mean, it's not determined yet what it would be, but it could be rented out to multiple businesses, or one, depending on what the interest is on the construction. This specific lot 1.
So the property will house a building structure.
Yes. I can give you the dimensions. It'd be a 50 by 60 foot structure, at least currently proposed as a 2-unit structure.
Any further council
Can you
discussion?
provide details of the increment revenue or the payment of it? How's this all gonna work?
So the basics of the tax increment financing, it's really, I mean, it's really the best tool out there for cities to use to encourage economic development. There's never any tax revenue lost by the city or any other taxing entity. The taxes as they were paid on the vacant ground continue to be paid every year going forward. And in fact, the total amount of the taxes, even with the new structure, are paid as they normally would be. What happens is, if everything in the agreement is followed from the developer side, the city collects all of that increment. So any of the new value created by the construction gets set aside and put with the city, so that we can rebate that back to the developer as long as they meet all the terms of the agreement. Again, encourages new development without ever losing any tax revenue. Following, it would be a max of a 12-year rebate. There's also a cap on dollar amount, so if it comes up back assessed more than we anticipate, it could be paid off sooner than the 12, but in no case is it more than the 12 years, and then that full value is added to the tax rolls.
Any public comment? If not, it's a roll vote.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Casement,
Yes.
Mockart,
Yes.
7.4, resolution approving development agreement with Eagle View Land Development Incorporated, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. Lot 2.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Rich, second by John.
Same details of lot 1 apply to lot 2?
No, it's a different structure. It is the same size, 50 by 60, but it's designed to be one structure, one owner, one occupant. I don't know the exact details, but I think it's planned to host a contractor.
The tax increment revenues and payment, all those details from lot 1.
The
carry to
tax
lot 2.
increment financing details are essentially the same. It's a 12-year max. There is again a dollar amount ceiling as well. It's just whichever one hits first.
Any further council discussion? If not, public comment? And it's a roll vote.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Casement,
Yes.
Mockart,
Yes.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
7.5, resolution approving development agreement with Eagle View Land Development Incorporated, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of that agreement. Lot 3.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Rich, second by Cody. And everything from 1 and 2 apply to 3.
3 is a much larger structure. It's a 180 by 50 building with 6 separate bays. At least the design intent is for it to be space for multiple kind of small emerging or even just satellite contractor bays. But I mean, the terms are the same. It's just they've got different kind of dollar figures for this construction.
Any council discussion? Public comment? And it's a roll vote.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Casement,
Yes.
Mockart,
Yes.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
So 7-6 right now.
I
I would recommend no action on 7.6.
Do we need to make a motion?
I think we could
Just
can
pass it over.
pass it over.
All right.
Can we make a statement as to why we're having no action on 7.6?
We received a petition requiring that the borrowing be put on a referendum to a question to the public. So we, as a city council, which I think we can make our decision in the future, we don't have that on the agenda tonight. We will either have to take action to place that on a special election, or and I don't recommend this, but the other alternative is to abandon that initiative.
Thank you, Jacob.
7.7, resolution approving open records request policy.
Move to approve.
First by Betty,
Second.
second by Rich. Any council discussion?
Now, you said this was recommended by the new city attorney?
This was prepared by and recommended by the new city attorney. I reviewed it. It seems to make sense to me, but he kind of built it off of policies that his firm has used with lots of other communities. So
Any further council discussion? Public comment? And it's a roll vote.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weimer.
Yes.
7.8, Macocata Valley Electric Company Fiber Optics Project Proposal.
So, with most of our utility projects that occur, we just issue we either have franchise agreements with companies like Alliant or Black Hills that provide, the electric or gas services, but there aren't really franchise agreements underneath Iowa code for fiber optic utilities. Most of that work that occurs in the city, and there's been a lot of it in the past few years, just goes through a simple excavation permit that we review, and but because this proposal, similar to one we've discussed in the past, is looking at providing service to residential and commercial customers, I brought it to your attention. There's not really a formal approval. Really, our goal is to ensure that we protect our infrastructure, that there's not any damage to the water sewer lines during the construction. They are planning to use a mix of overhead fiber as well as directional boring, which can lead to some issues, but I think if we take proper precautions, this could be a benefit to the community. Obviously, high-speed internet is a great thing to be able to offer to potential residents or businesses. So their initial goal is to provide the fiber to their offices, but in doing so, they'll have it running through the heart of the community, and they can kind of expand from there as their budget allows, or so. I've been working with Jeff Geiskemper on this for a while. He's provided the proposed map in the packet, and I know that Jim and Dan have reviewed that. I'm not aware of any concerns at this time. I kind of expressed to them that, we want their commitment that they're going to make things right. If there are any damages in construction, and I think they're willing to do that. they will be required to have a bond filed for that excavation permit, so that, you know, we have something to fall back on if there's damages that aren't corrected. But unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight, but he said he'd be happy to respond to any questions that the council had.
It looks to me like, and exactly like you said, they're coming into town and going straight to their office. And then they're going out Davis Street up to Garnavello.
Mhm.
Is there a reason why a block away they're not providing fiber optics to our downtown?
Well, I
mean,
think their
they're
intention,
right there.
I think their intention is to do that. The reason they show that extra line, and I don't really know any more details other than they've had communication with the school district to provide fiber to their office as well. I do think they intend to provide it further. The exact kind of rollout of those extensions, I don't know yet, but this is kind of their main line that has the high capacity. From there, they can branch off and provide smaller lines to, you know, either down side streets or to residents or businesses.
It'd be nice if they'd go. You know, I mean, it'd be good to get our downtown. I don't know, you might wanna just ask them, not that it's a deal breaker, it matters, it just seems odd to me that that's the plan.
Well, that just may be the preliminary. As soon as they get it done, then they can branch off later on, so.
Oh, I'm sure.
This is
Well,
just,
They can't just go right down Main Street because we don't have any utilities that way. They're all
Right.
behind the buildings of Main Street, so all that stuff comes in from the backside.
right there, and they're gonna have to hang.
So they'd have to go down behind both, and maybe that's all Lion gave them permission for is on that pole set already, so.
So if they are running their fiber underground through any of the city's right-of-ways, I would anticipate that the Coconut Valley will, means it's feeding their offices, they will not abandon the service. But for, you know, whatever reason, as we give thought forward, if they are gonna abandon the service, they don't abandon the lines, and they would remove them from the right-of-way if the city so chooses to have those removed.
I know we discussed this, and I guess it's something I'll bring to the attention of the city attorney to see what the best route is to enforce that, because I'm not sure, without having an agreement in place, how I mean, maybe it's a policy or an ordinance we need to look at. Another ordinance which we might be discussing in the future, I don't have it prepared tonight, obviously, but other communities have started looking at, because of how much fiber optic directional boring is occurring, some communities have required that the developer pay the cost to have the sewer lines cameras following to ensure that there's no damage, just to make sure that's clear. The reason you don't have to do that for the water lines is because they're pressurized. You know when you hit a water line, but you can strike a sewer main and not know it for 3 or 4 years, and then often it's much harder to get the developer to repair that.
So we'll wait on this one until Jacob gets more information.
We really can't.
I would recommend we move forward. Again, I still have not approved the excavation permit. It's not that we can't get some of these additional assurances, but I don't see a reason to.
This was more of a courtesy of Coconut Valley just to let us know what was going on, I feel.
It is in a lot of ways. The only thing they're really required to have is the excavation permit.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, it's the same as
there's
the other
companies all the
fiber
time in
optics.
town that we have no idea what they're doing and just get a permit and do it. Do you need a,
Yeah,
It would be
I
good to have a
need
motion, just-
motion.
so
Can I ask a
moved.
question?
Second.
All right, sorry to
In
interrupt.
in a minute, Mike. First by Cody, second by Rich. And it's, any further council discussion?
I'd just like you to maybe share with the public, how does this coincide with the fiber that's already being installed in town? And are they being required to follow these restrictions that you're talking about with the REC? I mean, they're all over town. There's bolts all over. Now another one's coming in. We discussed this at nausea before.
Yep.
You know, if you remember, and we jumped right in and wanted this one company, Olin Telephone, to come in. Now we have the possibility of another one, which I guarantee you in a couple of years, you're gonna have another one. So we need to have a plan as to how this is gonna be regulated. Not so much regulated, but just kept track of. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, sir, Mr. Durgan.
Tom Durgan, property owner downtown. I just, Mike kind of hit on that because I was thinking Olin was doing, and they're doing fiber optics. Is that what Olin Telephone Company's doing? Okay. On that note, I think, I believe I'd asked about a year ago about another company, being REC, coming in. Is it my understanding they're just gonna go through town to their office?
That's their current projection with,
Okay.
with
Well, I agree. I hope they do, because living in the country, we have them, and we live in a bad area. Even when the power's out, we don't lose fiber optic. So I hope you guys do let them do whatever they gotta do and put it in. I hope they do come into town, stay here, and hook it up.
All right, if no further public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 7.9, beer and liquor license. A and B are the same, so I'll read those. Addition of Class B wine permit to existing liquor license, General Casey's Store number 2690 and Casey's General Store 2908.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Kay, second by John. Any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. C, renewal of Class E liquor license, Class B wine permit, Class C beer permit, Fairway Store number 166.
Move to approve.
First by Rich,
Second.
second by Betty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 7.10, review and approval of current bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Cody, second by Rich. Any discussion or? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 8.0, city administrators report.
What was that? Last Wednesday, I believe, we had the kickoff meeting for the downtown revitalization grant. Basically, we had the Martin Gardner Architects and Chad stands for MECOG here to, we started off with a meeting with the property owners, and not everyone was present, but went through more of the details of the grant application. And following that, we did a tour of the downtown. Part of the requirements for the grant is that we do a slum and blight study. Basically, you have to determine the areas in need of revitalization before they'll provide the grant funds. And then also just doing the kind of preliminary assessment of the facades. At this time, we have 12 agreements for properties along with the kind of application fee that we discussed. Expect 4 more. We've given people till the end of this week to get that in, and we'll be scheduling one-on-one meetings with between the property owners and the architects to start working on those renderings, the plans for that specific project, and the cost estimates. The grant application is due next spring, April. Any questions on that? The only other thing I have is that I'll be attending the League of Cities annual conference in Dubuque this week, Wednesday through Friday. So, looking forward to that.
Server back functioning?
Server is working. There was no loss. I guess I'll back up for clarification. Friday afternoon, while we were working to get the council packet complete and uploaded to the website, our server turned off and wouldn't reboot properly. So we weren't able to get that done on Friday like we normally do. First thing this morning, we had IT here. It is currently restored. There's no lost files, but we were already planning to have, and so we're expediting the plan to have a new server constructed. Just the components of this server are aging, so that'll be in the ballpark of $5,000 for that new server. That's all I have.
All right. 9.0 Mayor and Council reports on boards and commissions.
The library met on Monday night last week, and we spent a lot of time looking at proposals for an electronic thing.
An electronic what?
An electronic sign
Oh.
to be in front
Out
of the
on the
library
corner?
to not only show library events, but community events too.
Anybody else? 10.0 public with business with the council on items not on the agenda.
Tom Durgan, property owner, downtown. Jacob, I asked you a while back, and you were just kinda talking about the facade program, which I've got questions on. One of them is, well, before I ask the question, obviously, most people know I'm dead set against it. I do not want my tax dollars going into somebody else's building. I love these old buildings, I've made that very clear. So I asked you a while back if the city was gonna borrow the money for that program, $250,000 or $250,000, or however you wanna look at it. You said yes. Is that gonna be a 7% loan that everybody's gonna have to eat? Or do we not know that yet, or what's the process,
mean,
or what do we gotta go through for that?
It's possible we would borrow that, but it's not determined yet. And again, just to clarify, 7% is a maximum. I don't anticipate that ever being the case.
So, my understanding of this when it started was facade program, and correct me if I'm wrong, 18 inches of the front. You guys have easement or whatever, this is my understanding, of the front 18 inches. So, I believe his name is Kyle from Marion, came in, did his spiel. Very professional, very nice guy. Well, he called it a catalyst program. So now I've heard facade program, catalyst program. Betty, at the last meeting, you said catalyst program. I think you said, Jacob, you said facade tonight. my understanding of the facade is the front of the building. My understanding of the Catalyst program when Kyle was here is you can do your roof, you can do a piece of the front, and you can leave another piece. So which is it? Is it a facade or a catalyst?
There's two separate grant programs. There's a community catalyst grant program, and we already have one of those in action right now at 106 East Main. That's happening. That covers
How did,
a total
go ahead.
rehab of the structure. As far as I know, I think all aspects of the building are included in that scope. It's a completely separate grant program. What I was just discussing earlier was the downtown revitalization grant, which is for facades. Now, the rules of that grant are set by the federal government. I mean, it's their federal money. So I guess on that note, I'd like to say your tax dollars are going to go to this project whether you like it or not. It's just either going to be in Anamosa or it's going to be in another community.
Yep.
But the scope of that grant, the downtown revitalization grant, can change according to the federal government. We don't know. At this time, it does not cover roofs, but there has been discussion they might include that in situations where it's absolutely vital and it's a small portion of the overall project cost. It has not been confirmed yet. So it's possible that could change and be added into the scope, but its intention is always about the facade. So even if they add that, it's not just, they're not going to approve grants for 10 new roofs and nothing more. It's not a roofing grant. It's again kind of supplemental to that, improving the look, the aesthetics of the downtown.
I have to commend you, you've at least, because many times I've been in here and asked questions and got no answers. I've always been referred to Derek. But it sounds like maybe you have done a little research on this. Or you're baffling me with BS, right? So the Catalyst one that you were talking about downtown, is that the building that burnt? Is that 106 East Main? Or is that the flower shop?
Yes, it was the one that had the fire.
So, obviously, we know we've had an issue with that. What has the city done, if anything, to see where the dollars have went? If that's in the Catalyst program, there's gonna be more buildings coming into this Catalyst program, and I asked this question a long time ago. Who holds who accountable for what this money's being spent on?
So it's a completely reimbursement-based grant. Again, we're talking about the community catalyst. They don't get any money until they've expended it, and they submit those expenditures to the city, who turns them into the state. So they've had one reimbursement request that I submitted. It hasn't yet been approved. It's under review by the state for
And
payment.
that's the state part of it? Because the city, and I'm just trying to clarify this in my head. So, the city, that was a $25,000 something from the city, what was that?
So the city has a match in the grant of $25,000. None of that was paid up front. It's done through tax increment
Okay.
financing. So essentially, once their project is complete, we assume that their building value will increase. And once that does, again, that increment value gets rebated back to them after they pay their taxes to create the city's match. So it's all, they've got to hold up their end of the deal before they ever get our share. There's nothing up front.
On the facade program, my understanding is there's nonprofits in there. How are you gonna get your money back off the nonprofits, if they're in there? That's just my understanding.
Again, the state has done a strong an assessment of this program, the Downtown Revitalization Grant Program. And they have shown that these facades have increased property values in the downtowns that they occur. Not every building increases, but when you look at the program as a whole, downtown values have increased. So that automatically brings your property taxes in higher, but you also look at the more difficult things to track. I mean, your sales taxes, of course, even if it's a nonprofit, the fact that it might attract someone to the business across the street makes an impact.
Yeah.
So those sorts of things.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anybody else?
I just have one question, sorry. Tammy Seeley, 202 Park Avenue. Jacob, I just have a quick question because I didn't understand exactly your explanation on 7.6. So you received a petition from the voters to bring either, it says here, asking the question of entering into the loan agreement be submitted to the registered voters of the city. The governing body shall by resolution declare the proposal to enter into the loan agreement to be abandoned, or shall direct the commissioner of elections for a special election. So how are you responding, I guess? That's my question.
We didn't take any action tonight, but we will be doing one of those two in the future.
Okay. So that will be in a closed session, or
No,
it'll
no,
be,
that-
it'll just be back on the,
That action
Back
would
on the
take
agenda.
place in
That's what
open public session.
okay, very good.
11.0 adjournment.
Oh,
Oh,
just 1 minute. Can I?
Yeah.
half a minute.
Come on.
Tim Shada, Fire Chief, and with what's been going on about this loan deal, and then what Tammy just asked, is there a possibility I can continue on with getting plans for the addition to the fire station? I'm needing to get specs for everything, plumbing, heating, electrical. I've got the specs for the steel building itself. But we can't move forward until I know what everything's gonna cost.
Yeah, I think we can continue to some point. I think we can continue to get specs and get prepared for bidding. We wouldn't go out for bid unless we secured the funding. But,
Sure.
But we can try to get ready so that, assuming we go to a vote and that vote is approved, that we're ready to pull the trigger right away and we don't delay it any further.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anything else? I'll ramble one more time here, and then more on the grants downtown, and, not to point or anything, cause I really admire the work that Tom's doing on the old theater and stuff, but knowing more, watching other developers in other communities that I've seen and the stuff that's going on, I know we have a negative attitude towards spending and the downtown and different things as far as, I mean, honestly, we have a very Republican attitude. Stand up and pay for your own, go along. But I just wanna encourage everyone in the room, we got an interest in the downtown or the buildings. The governor doubled the money that they're putting in to a lot of these programs in the next fiscal year. So doubled it. They say they're gonna get a lot of the backlog off and have room for new. I think that's pretty accurate, isn't it, Derek? I mean, kudos to everybody that does something on their buildings and is paying for it, but keep in mind that there's over, do you remember the number? Is it 35 million or so that the Governor Reynolds put toward, 34? That many $1 million are gonna be spread across the state going into downtowns. Towns, Anamosa size, and with the way, there's a whole scoring system to the downtown and the communities of how they approve this. And with the amount of vacant buildings, or blighted buildings, and different stuff comes across, we score pretty well in a lot of the numbers. So those with properties and with interest in bettering things, these grants are out there for the whole state. I mean, we can be, you know, we don't need them, we don't want them, but, and I fully respect that, but on the flip side, economically, this money is getting distributed across the state. So whether we apply for it and get it, and even in this facade program, you know, with the buildings downtown, it's $75,000 to a building. You know, it's 50 from the state, 25 from the city, and 25 by the owner. That's a good chunk of the state money coming from other communities into the community to better it. And it's projects, you know, going on. The Catalyst grant is a single grant. A city can apply one building a year. So it's one building up to $100,000 comes in. So if you have a project, you know, it's worth some effort to take it, because if we don't take it, Monticello's gonna get it. Let's go back to that rivalry, you know. So, and I'm just saying, I know we wanna stand on our own feet and roll, but these programs are there. I mean, the state's gonna spend 35 million. That's just in the grants. That doesn't count all the tax credits and everything else that are out there for these programs. Whether it's building owners, contractors, people in town, there's a lot of people with an effort to develop something downtown. These programs are there. Derek has an office in town here. He knows about these programs. They take time. They take a good year to get through the process. But the money's gonna go somewhere. And why shouldn't we go out with an attitude of, you know, it's there to help everybody, and if we don't take it, someone's gonna take it, so.
Thanks, Bryce.
No one else, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If I could even walk. I've been sitting so long.
I've been here an
Maybe I sat too much in school today.
Oh.
And here soon, you could have showed me how to lower the chair. Figure it out.
John was up here.
Maybe somebody switched the chairs.
Dale said they had auditors in here. That's what Rich said, he'll switch with you.
And he wouldn't do it.
No, I'm not taking her special chair. I'd get in trouble.
Get a nameplate.